Introducing ColleidoCast. Oh man, it's the only podcast. There's two people and we talk. There's movies. Oh my god, I don't know, we talk about other stuff too. But really it's most, oh yay, yay, it's starting. 5 seconds, get your fucking popcorn. Oh shit.
And we're live.
Yay.
Flawless.
Your popcorn.
Flawless transition. I'm so proud. Oh, god dang it. There's the fucking right click thing. Almost flawless transition. I blame Discord. Anyway, welcome back, everybody, to ColleidoCast, the only show where you can listen to the world's smartest idiots talk about anything from 80s nostalgic treasures and movies, typically, to AAA modern-day dumpster fires. As always, I am your host, Mr. JT, and as always, with me is Mr. War. How you doing, Mr. War?
Doing fantastic. Thank you so much. Another episode of ColleidoCast where character meets culture, or does culture meet character? I don't know.
Character collides with culture.
A collision of culture and characters, or character.
That was your add-on thing. You better remember
Filling
it. So yeah,
we got some great movies to talk about. We have it, and it's a theme. I love that we have a theme, and the theme is shapes, specifically deadly shapes.
Mhm.
We're gonna be talking about cube, which is a three-dimensional shape, and circle, which is 2 dimensions with infinite sides. However, I feel like it would have been a better fit if we did cube and sphere.
You know what? Just for that, I think we should watch. There's a movie of that. Is that right?
Sphere. Oh, it's based on the Michael Crichton book, which you should read before you watch the movie. It stars Samuel L. Jackson, Sharon Stone, I believe,
Oh, really?
and then some guy.
Some guy.
Some white guy. It's like got that standard 80s formula where all movies had one white guy, one black guy, and one chick.
So the one that we watched first was Cube. It's I guess you'd call it like a cult classic, right? I mean that's fair, I think.
Cube is, I think it's become a cult classic. You really never, like, I mean, obviously it didn't win any awards, but it's still, even today, do we know when it came out? Was it 1998?
97.
97, so yeah, we're here 25 years later. People still talk about it, people still like it, yeah, both of these movies really are like the definition of low-budget sci-fi.
It's like, what can I do with like $100 or something? Yeah. I mean, more than that probably, but
more than that, more than $100. But they're both, I think, better than they have any right to be. And
I agree with that 100%.
Man, they're inspiring. You look at movies like this, and like anybody, even the smallest team, could put together something like this. And as long as your writing's good, as long as the execution's good, you can turn out a film that people will love and respect.
100%. And that kind of goes for like Prospect, which we talked about last week. Like, I mean, yeah, there was a good bit of money into that movie, but most of the effects are practical, and it was a low budget film, you know, for Hollywood, I guess.
Sure, and another thing these movies have in common that makes them even more impressive is that they're both single room films.
Yeah, so
even though Cube technically, in the context of the story,
right,
takes place in multiple rooms, it's the same set.
Yeah, so right, exactly. So they had one thing to work with, and they had ways to make these effects, specifically for Cube here. They had ways to make it look like there was more than just the one set. And I'm not a filmmaker. I don't really know movie magic that much, outside of like CGI stuff, which is super obvious. And I think that's why people really don't like CGI, is because it's obvious what happened like 100% of the time. Oh, they just animated a thing and threw it into the shot, and that's how you got every MCU villain ever.
Yeah, I mean, CGI overload is a huge issue.
Sometimes it's fine, but like I don't know. Yeah, I think you're right. It's just kind of gotten overboard as time has gone on. And one thing I was kind of thinking about watching, I guess both these movies, but specifically Cube, seeing as it was made in '97, is just like, and I've echoed this to multiple people since we've watched it, and I think before, movies just used to be like way more interesting back in the day. I may have already said that on this stream, actually. I don't know,
Yeah,
but
I get what you're saying, although I don't know if that's just the nostalgia talking. Like, I feel the same way, but I'm not confident to say, yeah, movies really are
not
unoriginal,
uninteresting, but like the way they're made.
uninteresting
That's what I
schlock.
mean.
Oh, sure, yeah, a movie, well, I don't know if even the fact that interesting movies aren't still being made, but it's just that so many films are committee-driven. Specifically anything put
Yes.
out by Disney, but it's like more and more. There's like
Or
5 major studios,
or Warner Brothers.
or yeah,
Um,
Warner Brothers, Disney,
I swear I'm not
Universal,
trying to
Illumination.
reference. I swear I'm not trying to reference Matrix 4, but I mean, yeah, I mean, that was definitely like a committee-driven movie, 100%. Right now, um, I don't think we've ever revealed this behind-the-scenes thing. Rob can't see the pictures I'm showing, so I kind of have to let him know sometimes. I'm showing a picture of
The inside
the
of the
set.
cube.
Yeah,
Okay, so
this is it. This
just
is the whole thing.
to explain sort of like the premise of this movie, which actually, let's hop into that cold open. This is like one of the perfect cold opens.
Oh yeah.
A guy wakes up in a room. It's the room that, if the picture's still up, the room that you're looking up, it's a square room. It's a cube room. It's a cubic shape. All the walls are square, the floor is square, the ceiling's square, and it's broken down into square like panels.
Right. Yeah.
And we don't know what's going on. He's in like some sort of jump chute. He walks to 4 sides of the cube, and each side of the cube has a door in the middle of it, and it's like a hatch where you swing the
It's got like a little
like a
spinny
little
door handle thing.
turnstile type
Yeah.
handle, and he opens it up, and the door slides out, slides down. He looks in and sees another cube that are different colors on through each of these doorways.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, he climbs through a hatch, and we are treated to a fantastic special effect, a practical effect, and most people know this from the first Resident Evil film with the laser grid. But what happens is a giant razor wire mesh lattice swings down and minces him into human cubes, and he just falls apart, and it's fantastic.
I just showed a picture of that too.
Good.
It's not like the
Good.
whole body. I could only find one of the face, but it's still a pretty convincing effect. Like I think they sort of CG split his face here. But yeah, like if you've seen Resident Evil, which you probably have, the first one, terrible movie, but it was entertaining, I guess. You kind of know what happens. Yeah, he falls apart, and then I think this is like one of 2 times or something where they do end up using some kind of CG animation.
I still
It's
think
either that or stop
that was
motion. It looks
that was
CG to
that
me.
was it feels like a stop motion picture of like that thing folding up that was composited onto the shot. I don't know. Regardless, the man falling apart effect is great. There's like it's interspersed with close-ups of his clothes, and you see blood forming in like the square shapes where he's been cut.
It's
And
great.
really, this is the money shot of the movie. It's right there in the beginning, and I must have been like 12 years old. We rented this from Giant Eagle Video. It was me and my dad sitting on the couch. We're watching this, and like this like the scene happens, and we just like look at each other and like simultaneously go cool. It was just so cool, and like it's a lot like a horror movie in a way, because a big sell of the movie is that there are cool, interesting, unique deaths. And I guess to sort of explain the premise, there's a group of people in this giant cube structure, and it's a cube made up of cubes. You can imagine it like a Rubik's Cube that I believe is 26 by 26 by 26 rooms.
Yeah.
With some 400 feet by each way, and a lot of these rooms are booby trapped, and the characters sort of, we're dropped in with the characters, and they go through figuring it out, trying to explore this place. as we, the audience, are exploring it along with them.
Yeah, we're basically, yeah, it's a good way to put it. We only know as much as they do, and that's one of the things I really love about this movie. Just as someone who's a big fan of like, reading books and just storytelling in general, is it, this movie nails, in my opinion, it nails show don't tell, um, which is a huge thing, and it's something I actually had to explain to a couple of people when talking about this movie. So you have Cube One, and there's like two other ones. And the first two movies don't really explain anything. It's just like different takes on the cube, basically. Uh, and then the third one, they explain basically everything. And it's not the fact that they revealed it that sucks. It's sort of that, but it's also,
Were you unsatisfied with the reveal?
well, we need to rewatch this movie.
We do.
But
It's been like 10 years, but my memories seem to contradict the explanations for the cube given in this first movie.
it's probably true because I need to look into it, but I don't necessarily. My wife actually brought this up the other day. She said, I don't really know if the third movie had the first movie in mind a whole lot when making it.
I mean,
And I could see that.
Whether it did or didn't, I don't think. I think we could say fairly certainly that the first movie did not have the third movie
Yeah,
in mind.
yeah, 100%.
Like the script writers of this movie weren't thinking, okay, there's like these aliens or whatever the hell they. I don't even know if they were. They were like squid, not squid people, but like they were bald alien type.
Oh, in the third movie?
I really don't even know. None of that is even. This movie stands alone, in my opinion.
Yeah, which is really great. But I was basically explaining like when you reveal something, it at least make it impactful. Like the stuff revealed in that way in that movie was just, in my opinion, anyway, it just kind of made the whole thing feel like schlock to me.
It was more of a traditional story, I think.
Yeah,
is
I think
the problem,
that's
because,
true. Yeah.
Every scene in this movie is with the characters. There's no like scene in the back where it's like people are watching them on cameras. There's no like
Right.
scenes back home where it's like, oh, where'd Johnny go? He was just here. And so and like everything we learn in this movie, we learn with the characters. Like that, I don't even think there's a part where you're like, okay, I know what's happening, and like you have to sort of sit around and wait for the characters to figure it out. That's always kind of frustrating.
Yeah.
But there's really not even time for that because this is a tight movie. It's like 90 or 100 minutes.
Right. And what's funny is just based, typically you're the guy in DMs going, double feature, double feature. And this, like, in the middle of the movie, I sort of was thinking, like, man, I don't really know how much we can say on it because of what it is. You know what I mean? Like, there's only so much you can. Okay, there's a Rubik's cube of death, and people are trying to get out, and there's some really cool effects, which are done, very well, I think. And so there was like the one time where I'm like, okay, you know what? Let's check out maybe like one more.
I only say that because I don't want to watch, or I like to watch more than one movie a week, And
Oh yeah,
like,
okay, all right.
Might as well talk about them. Plus, again, I don't know how long we can talk about Cube. So we have a cast of characters that are introduced almost like one after another, and they're I thought they did a great job with the cast of characters. I'm not necessarily talking about the casting, but just the range of characters. We've got the Doctor,
Holloway,
who the entire time is talking about like these are the stages of dehydration, these are the stages of exhaustion, and sort of provides a running commentary. I almost thought that she was like a Doomer type character
at first.
But and for those over the age of 25, Doomer is a slang for somebody who's just always pessimistic. But I think she was really the realist.
Yeah.
And I only say that because we're introduced to the quote bad guy who is just like an office worker.
Worth,
and
yeah.
He is the pessimistic character. Everything he said, he has no hope. He has no will to survive. Even at the end of the movie, he has no will. Everything he says is just defeatist. Um, and you hate him.
He's very apathetic the entire time, pretty much. There's like a part here and there where he kind of perks up a little bit, but
sure, I think he does redeem himself at the end. We've got the child prodigy, who is a young girl, right? I mean, she's a math expert, I think.
Basically, yeah, she's a college student.
Is she a college student? I swear she was like in high school. She looks so young.
She was a college student who I believe majored in some kind of math.
Some sort of
math.
Yeah. So, and again, all of these people, sort of their careers have an impact on the story. There really doesn't feel like there's anything wasted. Who am I forgetting? And then we've got the cop, who we see it right from the beginning. He takes charge.
Mm-hmm.
And we have what I called the false protagonist, and that would be Ren.
Yeah, yeah.
So the last character we meet, unless I've forgotten any others,
Kazan?
is Ren, who is
okay.
He's world famous in this universe as a like an escaped convict or like a jailbreak expert.
Dude, I not to interrupt too much there. I actually Googled like the Ren and like the bird, like all these nicknames that were thrown up, like the Bird of Attica and stuff. I was like, yeah, go figure, it's fictional.
I assumed so.
Yeah,
yeah. It was good world building, a solid world building.
It was.
Bring this character, anyone in any fiction, and this is something that I love. And any time I read something, this was, I think, a part of why the characters in Game of Thrones felt so real. But when somebody has a nickname in the world, like, it sort of makes them feel real. So, like, we know that this guy has an established history breaking out of jails. He comes in, and he's the only one who, he's not panicking. He's like, he's already got his...
Dude, he's like the professional. He's just...
He's throwing food in. He's like, here's what's happening. Some of these rooms are trapped, and like everyone immediately says, okay, like here's a guy that we can trust, we can lean on, and then he's immediately killed.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and show that picture.
Yeah, a great practical effect.
I got two pictures actually.
This is like one of the oldest effects, the melting effect that was everywhere in 80s and 90s
it's so effective
movies.
Though.
This is it's probably just wax, and the wax melts, and you film that melting. It's fantastic. Always great to see a wax dummy get torched.
And to kind of talk about like the effects here with the traps and stuff. Like sometimes there's CGI, and it's just like real simple stuff that you could make, probably even back then, in just like a basic 3D renderer. And here's another picture of his face melting.
The CGI parts really, like, they're only there. The only CGI is out of necessity, and it's as simple as possible to get the idea across. Like there's the room where all of the spikes. It's the sound activated room, and all of the spikes shoot from all of the walls and just fill the room up with giant skewers. And like, imagine how terrible it would have been had it been like a rotating CGI blade like shooting through. Like, it could have been bad.
It could have been. It could have been real bad. There was actually one trap that looked really good. The cop Quentin, he ends up getting caught in a trap, and it's just like these wires that are around him in a circle, and they start to slowly like converge and twist.
They like twist.
Yeah, and it looks solid, and he opts out.
I'm pretty sure those are actual. They actually had like piano wire strung up. Like those.
Yeah, why not?
CGI. I don't think that was CGI at all.
Oh no, it wasn't. And it looked great. It looked amazing. But I was kind of back up a little bit here. You were talking about Ren dying, and the effect here is he throws the boot, nothing happens. He hops down, and he hears like a clicking noise, and he turns around, and this little, like this zoom in on the panel.
There's a nozzle like comes out, and it shoots out.
Right, yeah.
At his face.
And it's just like, it's not the best looking effect ever, but it gets the point across, And I think this movie does that, kind of like you said earlier. It does that very well, in my opinion. But now, I guess they're not. They're without their professional. They're they're
True,
Bird
and
of Attica, and so they
that's
have to
where
move
the
on.
cop character steps up and he sort of takes charge. He's like the iron rod, you know,
And I think I'm not totally sure.
he becomes our hero.
Yeah, but also Levin, the mathematician, they start they're going through the rooms, they're doing the boot thing, and I think eventually she notices pretty quickly anyway. There's these numbers or something on like these little plates in between every room, and they're in sets of three, and she doesn't really, no one really knows what they are. They might be coordinates, that it might be some kind of an algorithm, whatever, and she gets this theory basically where at least for a while there, rooms with prime numbers are trapped. And that tends to be true for a very long time.
I don't think that's actually the case, right? Because
No, it's not.
that's the room where the cop gets caught in the
Hmm.
wires,
Hmm.
and he's like, "What went wrong?" And I don't know, like he walks in and then she shouts stop, and I don't know if that was her realizing like, wait a minute, this
She
one
saw
of these
the
numbers does have a factor because they're, or did she just did
she
she
saw the
actually
wire.
see the wire?
Yeah, she saw the wire.
Okay. So that theory was debunked then, right?
Yep, and then it was like back to cube one.
Back to square one. Oh, you know what? I forgot the most important character of all, the autism. There is a character.
That's one way to put it.
This movie is so
It's so
ahead of
90s.
its time with its diversity because we've got men, we've got black guy, we've got women represented, and we have an autism. Like every and an old man, like any demographic. You can't call this movie sexist, racist, ageist, or ableist,
Ableist,
right?
yeah. Can't call it anyist. Maybe shapist, because there's only
This is
cubes.
shapist.
Only cubes allowed.
But a lot of the drama in this movie is interpersonal. It really has that same sort of structure that, like any movie starring a cast of people that are holed up somewhere. I think the movie that comes to mind immediately for me is The Mist, of all things, where they're all in that grocery store and like everybody
Yeah.
sort of falls into their role. Dawn of the Dead, when they're in the
That's
mall. A lot of zombie movies where people are holed up, sort of
right, yeah. It's a very
follow along
this is the
Bird
same
Box.
formula. I never watched Brooke, but this is the same formula. It's just done in a very different way, like obviously location wise, but it's done very well. And speaking of The Mist, real quick, jot that one down. We definitely need to watch that one. And there's
I
another bit of
love The
media
Mist.
that I would like to show you with that, but we can definitely jot that down for a future episode.
This might be the second time we've brought up The Mist in this series.
It's
Because
like
the
your
giant
favorite
walking
horror movie.
monsters in Love and Monsters. That was essentially the same scene from the end of The Mist, where the big giant bug walks over the road. Great movie. We should definitely watch that one.
Hmm.
But you know what? I feel like this movie. Before we go into the plot and the resolution, to me, it was an allegory for government. Because
Yeah, there was
we
a lot of
learned
dialogue for that, for sure.
we learned that one of the characters was like a contractor, and he was responsible for building part of the cube.
The
that
outside,
they're trapped in the outer shell,
which
is
looks
how
like
they
that.
know the dimensions.
Looks like this.
And of course, this has already been established as sort of the bad guy, and that just makes everybody hate him more because he was involved with this, this giant trap cage jail cell.
He was involved somehow with this thing. He didn't know what it was for. Yeah.
He was involved very tangentially, but he says, well, it exists. He's like, nobody's in charge. Like, I looked. We don't like. This was a government project that started decades ago. Nobody. There's no oversight. There's no, like people, and I'm like, okay, this is just about people doing things autonomously. Like I don't want to go into like the Nuremberg trials, but it's almost like that too, where it's like, okay, like this is built and all the people involved now are just sort of following orders. Like no one knows why they're putting people in here. They're just doing it. Like they got a memo like 5 years ago, like, okay, we're gonna abduct these people, here, such and such and such and such, and the only reason it was being used, a lot of this could be conjecture by the character, but it would have been like it was paid for and built, so they had to use it to justify its existence, and that's really what all government is. Like, if something's been paid for, so we have to use it now to justify the cost. Otherwise, heads are gonna roll.
Yeah, I've stumbled upon things, on social media where people, not to get too off of the movie anyway, but where they would just show like, okay, here's research. I can't even remember these like what it was. It was so inane,
Is this where like the government's spending money to investigate how rabbits have sex while on cocaine?
Or like, here's how a hamster acts when it's high on weed, just stuff like this.
Retarded bullshit.
It's like
commentary that I got from this.
But my question to that is like, why does it? I don't want to get too into. I don't know. Why does it take millions of dollars to get a hamster high? Anyway.
It's all wasted money, man. Like nobody. You know what? I don't want to go into a libertarian.
I don't want freaking the FBI knocking on my door over hamsters. But yeah, that's a good observation.
I think what would be like the final revelation, where the characters are trying, like, so they understand that they're in this finite contained area, and they say, okay, we're gonna head in a direction, get to the end, and that's a very reasonable assumption. The characters are pretty smart throughout this movie, and at one point I guess we need to talk about the character development where our cop becomes more and more paranoid and enraged.
Yeah, he basically
and he becomes our bad guy.
Yeah, he ends up being a very self-serving, will do anything to kind of survive kind of character.
He pops a screw.
Well, I was gonna say, I think that play, because I don't know how long they have been in here by this point. I'm sure it's been at least a day, maybe. And for any of us, especially here in America, like a day awake trying to get out of a death trap would probably do that to you. And that's one of the big things in this movie is they do try to kind of play on like the mental state of characters, and you can see it like in the makeup and stuff. At some point,
their lips are all dry and
cracked
because they're dehydrated.
And it's honestly done pretty well. Like you don't even it feels natural. It feels pretty natural in the moment.
Yeah, you'd have a movie like nowadays where someone they would go through like 4 hours of makeup. I would probably end up looking fake. It's very simple. They've got a couple split lips, like maybe like a little piece of like skin that's like a little tiny piece of latex glued to the edge of their lip to make it look like it's peeling.
So recent. Sorry, just to speak on that real quick. Sorry. When I was sick with COVID, like a few weeks ago or whatever, I kind of just binged a bunch of horror movies. If you want to see Cube done not very well, go find a movie. I watched it on Shudder. It's called Meander, and it's Cube, but it's tubes instead of cubes. She's stuck in some lady stuck in a bunch of booby trap tubes. It's weird.
I'm sure there's 1,000 movies. Like there's the Escape Room series, which I feel like Cube is the original escape room.
I think you're right.
Everything's cryptic.
Mm-hmm.
Hang on, I'm getting. Can you disconnect and rejoin the Discord call real quick? I'm gonna do the same thing.
Oh, okay. Technical difficulties, I guess. Hello?
Alright, back.
We good?
You were like 5 seconds off from the words you were speaking, and alright. Sorry about that, everybody.
He's a failure.
Connection technical difficulties. So yeah, there's a lot of movies like this, and I even feel like the one person snaps and goes crazy is even pretty cliche at this point. Like I'm trying to think back to those
Yeah,
movies.
yeah, no, I feel that. And back in '97, that was still for this location, for this setting. It
Hell,
certainly
even
wasn't old, you know.
even Alien, the game over, man, game over. Like there's always that character.
Yeah,
So
that's
and
true.
it felt fresh though because this was the character at the beginning was the leader. He was he's a cop. He's on the side of law.
Hmm.
Law and justice. You think of him as and again at the beginning he was such like an iron rod for the characters, and then he sort of becomes more and more deranged as the movie goes on. He eventually kills the doctor lady for reasons unknown. I really don't know why he killed her.
I legitimately think he did it because at that. Okay, so I'll explain.
She said something to. She called him a
Hold on.
Nazi,
Yeah, no,
right?
I got this right here. So the part where he almost died. I think this is no. Sorry, there was some.
The sound.
The autistic guy. Yeah, that's right. That's right. He was about to get out, and then Kazan made a noise, and it set the thing off, and he freaked out, like you would if someone almost got you killed, especially in a situation like this. And he kind of runs up to Kazan and like grabs him, puts him like you.
Yeah, he's calling him a retard.
Yeah. He's being mean, but it's like I almost died, you know.
He like beats the shit out of fake bad guy.
Yeah.
Like multiple times, and you start feeling sympathy for that dude because he's very heavy-handed. And then when he kills the person, that's like, okay, this is now our bad guy. And I guess so. So there's one final revelation to the movie, and this is the part where like it's like the one thing in the movie where it's like, okay, like I find this hard to swallow, and so they're going through these rooms trying to get the end, and they eventually stumble upon a room they had already been in because the dead body of Ren is laying there,
missing his whole face.
This is sort of what I think a big part of what snaps in the cop's head is like, how is this possible? It's impossible. We've been moving in a straight line, yet they've somehow gotten lost. They got turned around. They were moving in circles, and what they figure out is that throughout the movie, there's like rumbling and there's shaky camera action. The actual structure is shifting and moving like a Rubik's Cube would, and sort of shuffling them around. And I could follow like the math jargon up until this point.
Well, there was we do these movie nights now in the Discord, and there was some particular idiot who kept talking over the dialogues. I couldn't tell you what was going.
That's your fault for listening to watching the movie.
That is my fault.
But, the college student looks at the numbers and she says, "Okay, these are coordinates for where they are, but the way she's like, they're coordinates for something that moves and has multiple places."
Mm-hmm.
And her and the accountant at the same time, she's like, "How do you track a moving coordinate?" And they both looked at each other and said, "Permutations." And I have no idea what permutations are in mathematics. If that is in fact a thing, I suspect it might be.
I'm sure it is.
But if it is, I can see the girl knowing it, not some random office cubicle dweller. So they figure out that these boxes move, and through calculating some sort of mathematical formula with these three-digit numbers, they're able to figure out where the rooms are in relation to the cube as a whole and where they're going to move to. And our final character comes into play here. The autism.
Yeah. It has something to do with the colors, right?
Well,
No. It was factors, right?
The factor, these are he's calculating the permutations, which I get. I don't know if this is something that's real.
And this kind of lets you in on a little bit of kind of his backstory. You don't know where he came from necessarily, but you do know and you actually learned this earlier, but you do know for a fact that every time he got a question right in the real world, he got a gumdrop, except for the red ones. He didn't like the red ones. I don't know why.
Yeah, he did not like red gumdrops, and he didn't like the red rooms either.
Yeah. And it was
that sort of leads to some cool points of tension where he's forced to go through red rooms and he's like freaking out.
But yeah, so basically that. Yeah, he actually literally goes down to avoid a red room, right? And they have to like figure out how to get him through.
Do they go around? I can't remember exactly, but so the Rain Man character can do fantastic math in his head, and then they use that to solve where the rooms are going to be, and they sort of discover that there is an extra room. That at one point, like they knew that the cube was 26 rooms long, and while doing the math, she said, "This doesn't make sense. It says 27. That would put us outside the cube." And
which is the exit.
Yep. And
so basically, they find out that after so long, the cube has like some kind of algorithm that it uses to move the rooms around. And at some point in time where they were, like basically if they just never moved from the starting room, they could have just went straight forward to the exit 26 rooms away.
Yeah, if they just waited like 20. Well, no, that room was the bridge that they were in.
Yeah,
it was the 27th room.
Right.
And if they just waited like a full day in there, they would have been able to exit.
Or that's how I got it, because I'm not a mathematician. I'm an idiot. So that's how I interpreted it. Anyway.
So the movie wraps up pretty quickly then. The cop guy goes insane. He tries to kill everybody. He succeeds.
He basically does succeed, yeah.
And we have a small redemption here for the bad guy, who was the bad guy at the beginning, and becomes more sympathetic throughout the movie. The office worker, I don't remember his name. I don't remember any of their names, really. And Kazan is the autism.
Yep.
And Kazan gets into the final room where he's on the bridge. I don't know. He's exited the cube, or no, he's in the final cube that is the bridge, and the cop tries to follow him, and our office worker grabs his foot and sort of sacrifices himself so he can't move. And then as the rooms move, the cop is essentially sheared in half. It's a great scene. The movie ends fading to white. We don't know what happens to the autism, except that he escapes and he's free. End of the film. It's fantastic.
You find out in the third film.
Okay. The third film's script has no impact on the script of the first movie.
I know, that's just me shitting all over it. Anyway, so yeah, Cube 1997. Which, by the way, we found this out while we were watching it. I think there was a Japanese remake that came out in October last year. I don't think it's
been produced. We don't know. We tried to find it.
Yeah, I don't. It's probably like at film festivals or something. I don't know, because we couldn't find it.
You son of a bitch! I'm the one who said that, and then you went in and you're like, oh, I guess Ward's right. Yeah, this happens all the time with indie movies where they get a release date of like year XXX. And they actually get a theater or a theatrical or a home release in XXX+1. That's just how it works.
Yeah.
So,
I think.
I'd like to see it.
Yeah, I think we should definitely watch that and maybe do like a rebound.
I don't think it'll be good.
Probably not. But it
has 2 sequels.
It can't be worse than the second one.
The second one it's so fucking bad. There's some cool ideas.
It's so bad it's funny to me.
Maybe we'll watch that one again, but
we should
recommend this movie.
I absolutely watch it. The only real downside I have to say to it is I think some of the dialogue could have been better. Maybe near the end there, some of the characters could have acted a bit more urgently when the cop went nuts. Because like we had somebody in there going like, why aren't they killing him? Why aren't they killing him? He's insane. He's attacking people. Just kill the dude and be done. It's like, yeah, I think I agree with that actually. And I don't usually wake up and choose violence, but yeah, I think I agree with that. And some of the acting is a little hammy. To my knowledge, a bunch of no-name actors who I don't think have been in anything else notable.
But
That's
like
about it, though.
the script that they had and the premise, it would just work so perfectly.
I think you
Um,
should watch it. 8 out of 10 kind of thing. I don't know why I
yeah,
keep giving these things scores, but yeah, just
I
watch
was
it.
gonna say 7 out of 10. Yeah, I'll go 8 out of 10. I mean, it's a classic sci-fi horror film. It's a building block. Let's say this cube is a building block for so many movies that came after it.
I think you're right, though. Like for
Yeah,
real.
and like I
Um,
said, like the premise, like with the people, like everyone in a single room, and um,
it's the escape room foundation kind of thing, and what's real funny is after that movie came out, I'm sure a lot of internet nerds saw it. It wasn't exactly like a pop culture thing, It was definitely, like we said earlier, it's
very
definitely a
niche. It was
cult
a
classic.
niche
It's
film.
niche, and I would see stuff like I don't know, yeah. You remember like Newgrounds back in the day, right? I would see like escape room games and stuff pop up on there all the time, and I can't help but wonder if that had something to do with it. But yeah, closing thoughts. Definitely, if you've never seen it, watch it. It's worth a watch. If you don't like it, you don't like it. It's fine. But there's a lot to respect there for a movie made in 1997 with a. I haven't looked at the budget, but I can assume it's very limited. It's shot in one room. You know.
Yeah, they like had like backlighting in the panels, and they were like,
Yeah.
I'm assuming they had like those gel filters, which are like pieces of plastic that they use in movies to like put over the lights for to change the temperature of the lights. It probably just had those stuck back there to change them from blue to red to white, or white would
Or
be
or
no filter.
or they just had like a light bulb behind there, and they had different colored light bulbs, and they just unscrewed them.
That could also be a possibility.
How about
That
that?
could also be a possibility. But yeah, it's like they had two sides of the cube, and then like they could like come apart and just film in the corner so that you could put the other half behind it for the shots that are leading from one room to another. And it's just brilliant filmmaking, shoestring budget. Like the way they
Mhm.
did it was fantastic. I don't have anything more to say though about Cube.
So we've said enough about rigid squares tonight. I think it's time to talk about smooth spheres or circles. And I'm actually gonna show. Go ahead, Rob.
I was gonna say, circle is the highest form of life on flat planet or flat land. A.A. Abbott, do you know what I'm talking about? Flatland.
No.
Forget it.
I'm gonna show one picture here. It's the only picture I have to show for this movie because it's the only one you need to see, in my opinion. The whole movie is this. It's this room, this completely black room with this like.
This is a premise movie.
Yeah, it's this. It's the. Go ahead.
It's got the perfect premise for a movie. It has everything.
So what's the premise, Rob?
The premise is there's a bunch of people in this room, and they have to vote on who dies.
Yeah, that's it. That's the entire.
And somebody dies every 2 minutes, whether they vote on someone or not.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody, of course, when nobody votes, I believe, or somebody random dies, and because nobody wants to have the fucking roulette wheel fall on them, everybody is compelled or has self-interest to vote. They have a vested interest in voting, and the fact that somebody dies every 2 minutes gives you a constant ticking clock premise.
Yep.
The movie starts out with maybe like 30-some people, so for the first act they can just kill like all of the extras. And,
so yeah, about that.
What, the random people dying?
No, okay. So oh yeah, no, I see what you're saying there. But when the decision making starts, so yeah, in the beginning, like a couple of random people die because they don't know what's going on, as these movies tend to go that way. But the kind of writing tool used here is the false protagonist. And they, throughout this whole like hour and a half movie or whatever, they continually change who you think that is a lot.
Sure.
Like you don't really know who's gonna get out of this thing alive. About halfway through, you find out it's just gonna be one person more or less, which at the end of the day, I guess, kind of makes everybody an antagonist. But
even then, they never had any certainty as to what was happening. Even in like the last 5 seconds of the movie, you're like, wait a minute, like what is like, does anybody survive?
Right.
What
Yeah.
is the end? What is the end game? So
In fact, the ending, I don't even want to talk about.
yeah, I feel like we should the ending of this movie we should
Just hide it.
not spoil. Yeah, we won't talk about it. Um, but it feels watching this movie is like playing a game of Risk. It feels like everyone's like forming alliances. Everyone's trying to like sell their case.
Right. Yeah.
And
It.
in like the first 2 minutes, we learn like they sort of try to get all of the rules established in like the first few minutes, and I think we had some confusion because there was technical issues in the first couple minutes of this film with volume. We didn't have very good volume due to one of the two people on this podcast, and so we learned that if you step outside of the circle, you are killed,
Mm-hmm.
and once you're killed, you are sort of pulled off by an invisible force, and these people have had something like alien. So the one complaint I have is, and maybe I just missed some stuff. So it is established that these people are on like an alien spaceship, and they talk at the. There's like
Hold on.
a couple lines at the beginning.
Back
they're
up.
Like we were
Back up.
trying to get out of the city because there were aliens.
Yeah.
That
No.
was
You're
established
right.
at the
You're right.
And it's like, okay, like that's something really
Or
important.
there was
These
like
people
something
would
in
be
the
talking.
sky. Yeah. Yeah. Like there was
Like,
something going
yeah,
on.
everybody was trying to get out of L.A. and like they were stuck in a traffic jam, and the alien ship came up and like started abducting people, and I felt like that, like the people probably would have been talking about that more at the beginning. Like, well, like obviously it's the aliens. If giant alien UFOs came to your city and then you found yourself in some sort of weird alien room, it's obviously the aliens. And I felt like that didn't need to be so ambiguous.
So I'm not trying to dig into this too much, but I think after this was in 2015. This movie.
Okay.
I would have believed that in 2015, what you just said. But now in 2022, I believe there are literally two sides to everything based on whatever your worldview is. Like, it doesn't matter what. If alien. I honestly believe this. If aliens came down to Earth today, you would have, left, right, whatever. Just arguing over the purpose, what we should do with it, blah, blah, blah. Like, are they even aliens? They're probably from the government. Just all sorts of stuff,
Sure.
stuff. And that's kind of why that's why I kind of give some of the dialogue in this movie a pass. And that's kind of the thing about this movie. It's completely carried by dialogue, which is kind of one reason I love it. It's not all like super smart dialogue. Like there's some pretty boneheaded, like stupid stuff said.
I thought like the first 10 minutes, I was like, oh, this is gonna be shit. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and then like as it went on, it's like okay, like all the people that died in the beginning were like the background, like the extras.
They were the
Like,
old people.
Yeah, and the old people. Obviously the people that only had a couple lines were people without much acting talent. And then like as the cast whittled down,
Yeah.
it definitely got a lot better. Like just sort of like watching everybody like stand around awkwardly. It's like okay, like I get that this is a movie and you have to have dialogue that is purposeful, but I feel like there would be more initial confusion and more than just like one person like steps off and gets electrocuted and everyone's like don't move, don't move. Like I feel like if you wake up in a room, the first thing you do is go, where am I? Like I'm gonna
And then everyone stops.
right?
Yeah, everyone steps off and everyone dies. Yeah.
Yeah, like
And
it felt like there should have been a little bit more confusion at the beginning, but I get that it's it's a movie, but rapidly my complaints on that line fell to the wayside because it was
the premise is so good, basically.
it's a good premise,
Yeah.
and they start right at the beginning, like okay, like what happens when there's a tie, what like there's ambiguity about what's happening because nobody knows who's voting for each other, and it's like okay, they're trying to do some things, it's like did they fuck up the votes, In a couple parts of the movie, the same premise where there's a tie has two different outcomes, and then it's like, okay, well, somebody changed their votes, or like, okay, well, it ended as a tie, so both people died, and like there's throughout the film, we really don't have certainty as to what some of the characters were doing most of the time.
Right. Yeah. And one of the reasons for that is because and I think I showed the picture long enough. There's a circle and there's a bunch of arrows around it that point to other circles that they're standing on, and everybody has like a I don't know if it's implanted or what, but they have a way to move their hands and kind of like vote for people, and they'll see like an arrow that's lit up and it's pointing towards somebody, but only they can see their arrow. They can't see anybody else's arrow, and that's one of the big kind of carrying
It's like Survivor.
pieces of this movie. Yeah, yeah, it's like Survivor, but like you don't know who's voting for who because you can't see it. You know, sometimes they let you in, you know, and sometimes they have like these red herrings, and it's done very well. Like sometimes people die you just don't expect to die, and again, it kind of goes back to like this whole movie is carried by dialogue and interaction. And you know, some actors are better than others. Some don't get any lines at all. One doesn't even speak English basically, and he gets like one line in Mexican.
One guy doesn't speak English, and another guy doesn't say a word the whole movie. And some of the people at the beginning probably are killed off before they say anything. But yeah,
But it
you've
works
got your
out.
standard, the guys lying. You know, you got the double cross. You've got, the person that's pure heart. You got the, this and that. And
Hmm.
uh, I felt like they overplayed their hand a couple times with people that were obnoxiously bad. Where it's like, oh, we
Yeah.
should kill this guy, and it's like he's. He's an illegal immigrant. He's gay. He's this. He's that. He's a piece of shit.
Yeah, people were
And they
saying
do that.
things that you
They
just
did it
wouldn't say.
3 times.
Yeah.
It happened like the cop was like, all black people are on welfare, and they're like, so they like we should kill the black guy. And then they all kill the cop because he's a racist asshole.
But
And it's like,
but also
it felt cartoony a little bit.
but also, and I know we're on Twitch. I'm just gonna say this. One of the most silly things that came out of someone's mouth in a room full of strangers. There's this like younger black guy, and I think he says this before the cop says anything. He goes, "Why not just kill all the black people?" Because he's like, I'm just expecting everyone to hate the black people. We're just gonna kill all the black people. And
He's like, the black guy always dies first anyway.
yeah, it's like, no, actually, a white kid died first, but whatever.
You see,
But
I thought that would be kind of interesting. I thought that like maybe they would go down a racial route and say like, okay, like,
it kind of
hey,
did. Yeah.
there's only 3, 4 black, or there may have been 5 total black people. You had the older black, you had 2 older black guys and a black woman and like the younger black guy. So at least 4.
4 or
I thought
5.
they
Yeah.
were going to be like, hey, listen, like there's 4 of us here. Like even though we're way outnumbered, if we all vote for the same person and everybody else is voting scatteredly, like we can like form an alliance and sort of become the weapon. But that they quickly abandoned that line. But that's the kind of thing that's cool about this movie is that you can imagine it turning out so many different ways.
Right.
And like you almost want to rewrite the movie, or just sort of take an equivalent premise and rewrite it with different people and with different outcomes.
I almost think, and we haven't really like done what we usually do, where we kind of go piece by piece, and I think that's fine. I think we actually shouldn't do that. But one of the first thing that does happen though is, okay, so in these situations, people take charge. That's just how we are.
Yeah, much like Cube and all the other movies we talked about, we've got the standout figures.
So there's this guy, this younger guy, and one of the sort of logical consensuses that he comes to is, and he even says it like basically like this: I know it sucks. I know it sounds harsh and cruel. Why not just kill the old people first? And everyone in that room agrees, basically, except for, I guess, near the end there's like what 2 or 3 left or something, and one of these
Well, they get
ladies.
to a woman who's just, she's like 52, and he's like, all right, well,
Yeah.
you're up next. And she's like, I'm only 52. And then, like, he
Hmm.
starts berating her because she has cancer and stuff, so they kill him. Like, that was, like, okay, like, I could sort of get
It
that.
took the cancer. I guess in a way, this is sort of like it's kind of the thing I hate the most. Really, it's a great premise, and I do think it
That's fair.
would go out somehow like this, you know.
Hmm.
But also, I can kind of see the writer almost using this as just like, okay, I want to make a social commentary on how I view the world back in 2015, and maybe it was somewhat valid, but I don't know, probably not. But I want to make this social commentary on how I see the world. There's going to be aliens and people get abducted. Man, the movie sounds really stupid the way I'm saying it now. And we're going to have a bunch of different identities and races and classes and whatever. And they're going to sit here and try to figure out who goes based on their worth, basically, which is a good premise.
It
There
feels
are
like
some characters though who are just, you know.
when you talk about that, the old people being executed the first, it feels like a commentary on socialized or nationalized medicine, where you've got like death
Yeah.
panels. It's like, okay,
Well,
this person is obviously not going to be gonna get put on the transplant list because they're 70. Why are you gonna give a heart to this 70-year-old man when he's gonna friggin' croak
yeah.
in probably 6 years anyway? Like, we should prioritize these people, and that's like, nobody wants. It's I don't even know like what the commentary they're making is, but it reminds me of it.
In now you say that, I think the kid who made that decision, I don't know if this is like a writer thing or not. I don't know if it was coincidence. I couldn't tell you, but it does seem to match up in my head from what I know. I think it was Indian, and I do believe either parts of India. I'm not totally sure. You have to double check me on this. Just grain of salt. But I know that there's like a cultural thing, at least in another country, Middle Eastern, Indian, something. I don't know. But where I think they euthanize like their 70-year-old or so people, something like that. Again, double
I
check
mean,
me. I could be
India's
wrong.
got a population of like 1.1 billion. They're not doing a very good job if they're euthanizing people for population control. I'm sure that happens in some places. I don't know. I don't know if it's
Anyway,
like eugenics.
I don't want to like draw like hard connections there. It's just I almost
So
wonder
you
if that
think he
was.
wanted to kill the old people because that was like a cultural thing where it's like,
I could
maybe.
it could have been. I don't know. And there's a lot of guessing like that with people's motivations and stuff in this. Like for instance, like halfway through or so, or a good little ways through, there's this man and this woman who were next to each other. They're both white blonde hair, and they're like, yeah, it's my wife, it's my husband, and this and that. Um, and then later on, it's revealed that's not the case at all. There's a lot of liars in this game too, and it
That was a
really.
fantastic scene where at the very beginning of the movie, he's like, "Hey everyone!" Like they're sort of, they make a half-hearted attempt to start introducing everybody, and they quickly abandon it because they realize that it doesn't help anybody.
Right.
And he's like, "Oh, my name's Craig. Oh, I'm sorry. I know we said no names." And he's like, he says a little bit about himself, and then an hour later, that the woman who is supposedly his wife cannot remember what his name is, and like it was such a good
It's a good
detail.
reveal, yeah.
Like that everybody like, and not even everybody there knew what his name was, but a couple of them remembered when he introduced himself, and yeah, it was a good reveal. It was a good detail. Just dropping that breadcrumb in because that like in the audience, some people remembered what his name was, and some people didn't remember him at all.
And honestly, man, it's hard for me with this movie in particular to want to reveal that much more of the story because I think you really, like, honestly, you really should just watch it. There's not much
Well,
more
yeah,
to it, and the ending is
it's a great
it got
ending.
me. It really got me. It got him. I heard him go, "Oh my God!" Like it's hard to get that out of Rob. So
Wrong. movie. I say that all the time.
So
But yeah, it's first and foremost, it's a premise movie. And yeah, if you like the idea of the premise, go watch it. You might not like the way it turns out. You might love the way it turns out, but the
it's
fact
fantastic.
that the premise is still there and it's still so cool and so interesting and fun to think about and watch.
Yeah. So what do you think about
What,
this? Like any last thoughts or anything?
gosh, I'm trying to think if I want to like give it a number out of 10. I think
Eight.
I like Cube better. Cube's age really is starting to show though.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I mean, it was a fantastic low budget independent sci-fi film with a lot of. I think I recognized one actor from Lost, although I'm not certain that's the
I think
case.
you're right. I just don't remember who it is.
It's worth watching for sure. I'd give it a 7 out of 10, whatever.
I think both these.
I'd say it's equivalent with Cube. They're both like if you haven't seen Cube at this point, you're an idiot. I think. Like, how have you missed that? Unless you're like a teenager or something, or had just. I mean, if you're in your mid-30s and you haven't watched Cube, like what were you doing?
Go watch it. Go watch it now.
Go watch both of these. I think we watched Circle on YouTube. I'm sure it was a pirated, illegal upload.
Regardless, I watched it legally because it was on YouTube, so it doesn't matter. I didn't upload it. I just watched it anyway. Yeah, I don't know. I think Circle anyway. If I had to give it a number, 8 out of 10 because, or maybe even 9. I don't know. Like it's just
gosh, really?
some of the. Yeah, I would take. I never do 10 out of 10 necessarily, but unless I'm being hyperbolic. But like some of the dialogue, just you can tell when something doesn't feel real, you know.
I felt that with the hippie guy, who it felt like it was just the writer running the math in his head. He's like, okay, we got 15 people, so we need 7 votes, and then like a couple of people, and and then his entire, he was prominent for a specific stretch of the movie, and every time
Near the end, basically, yeah.
He was just talking about how many people there were and the numbers. It's like, okay, like I can see the cold logic, and it just felt like somebody writing the scene. Where it's like, okay, the guy's writing the scene. The person writing knows that there's 15 people left, and he's gonna remind himself. He's gonna remind everybody, and that dialogue did feel very jilted. But I mean, like whatever. Some people think like that.
Yeah. And I've had plenty of conversations where I just don't understand someone's gears, you know. But yeah, I would say at least 8. You know, I really like this movie. I enjoyed watching it. I think you know what.
I'd say 7 or 8. I'd throw it up there.
I would say this though. If I had one like real solid criticism, maybe it was like 15, 30 minutes too long. I think it would have been better as like an hour-long thing, maybe. It was I feel like it dragged on.
Inconsistency in the 2 minutes in between each.
Well,
sometimes it
was
like,
know.
It felt like sometimes it was like 30 seconds, and sometimes it seemed like 5 or 6 minutes before someone died.
Yeah.
I feel like editing the movie so that somebody literally did die every 2 minutes would be impossible. I don't think you could do. I mean, it could be done, but oh god, it probably would drive the budget way over. You probably would have to dice the movie in ways that would harm the quality of it.
And as is, it's pretty solid.
Some of the pacing of the deaths did seem off.
Well,
even though those are minor complaints, I think we'd both.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of how I feel about both movies. Like, there's minor things, there's things that are pretty easy to look past, and they're very solid, very well done on a shoestring budget, and they're both worth watching at least once. That's what I think. And I'm glad I've seen Cube 5 or so times probably. I love that movie. It's really good. That whole concept.
I feel that movie used to be on the Sci-Fi channel all the time, and it's like back in the days when flipping channels was the thing.
Yeah.
Like I remember always saying it, and like you'd always watch it because it's such a fun. It's schlock, but it's fun.
It's a fun scenario to put yourself in.
Interesting and cool. Everything about it is It's
It's like Saw, but not stupid.
it just hits that note, you know.
Yeah. I guess.
But we're here. We're at an hour and 5 minutes. Wrapping up here, right? Do we have anything else to say about either of these movies?
No, I think that's it. Do you have anything you want to plug, Mr. War?
Well, I've got Warren Whiskey Publishing.
That's a new thing.
Pretty well now. Yeah. If you're a writer, check out publishing.warrenwhiskey.com or follow me at War Whiskey Books. I am currently trying to edit together an anthology of science fiction short stories. I've gotten some okay submissions and some bizarre submissions so far. So this is the first I've ever done anything like this. Like I've been on the submitter side where it's like, okay, let me take something I've written and
the easy part, yeah.
The easy part,
as far as
it's
yeah.
Whatever. It's out there. Check it out. That's all I have to say.
That's what, at War Whiskey Publishing, is that right?
At War Whiskey Books.
Okay, and that's on Twitter, and you can follow me at JTFM on everything basically. And until next time, I think next time we're doing probably Watchmen.
So that we've got a lot of ideas. We talked Nightcrawler, we talked Sphere today, we talked The Mist. I don't know if anyone gets this far and wants to leave a comment. Yeah, tell us what movie you think we should do. Even if it's not one of those three.
Tell us movies you're interested. Tell us what we did well. Tell us what we suck at. Just give us all the feedback. That's what I need. That's what I want.
Right? I want a 1,000-word essay about this podcast
tonight. Tomorrow. Reasonable.
Like you thought this was free? You thought this was free, idiots? Wrong. You got to do labor now.
All right. Well,
where's your homework? All right, shut this shit off. I'm done.
Till next time, every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Take it easy.
Take care. Comb your hair.